Stugotz here. You may not be able to run, throw, or catch like a professional athlete, but now that it's spring, you can get your lawn looking like a professional sports field, assuming your lawn gear will start. That's it. Stop by Advanced Auto Parts. They'll test your lawn and garden battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, they have Autocraft lawn and garden batteries starting at just $22.99. Plus, enter the code DAN20 when you buy online to save 20%. Think ahead. Think advance at Advanced Auto Parts. The Dan Le Batard with Stugotz Show podcast is presented by Capital One. This is Banking Reimagined. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Small business protection for more than vehicles with insurance expertise to keep your company moving forward. More at progressivecommercial.com. Check him out today. Stan Van Gundy, we miss him, our old friend. He's going to join us here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Sources have told ESPN that because NFL teams are unable to oversee physicals due to the coronavirus outbreak, they are adding provisions in player contracts stating that failed physicals will result in forfeited signing bonus money. Red Sox pitcher Chris Sale will undergo Tommy John surgery. Keep giving the pitchers big money. And finally, Venus trophobia is the fear of beautiful women. Here's the select quote difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, one rate. But Select Quote shops, it could get you up to 10 options from highly rated life insurance companies. For a free personalized quote, do what I did. Call 800-780-1010 or go to selectquote.com today. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Did you know there was a phobia that existed that is the fear of beautiful women? Chris, put together a list of 10 of some of those best titles so that we can go to Stan Van Gundy and see which of those he likes the best. We miss our friend Stan Van Gundy. He is now a game analyst for TNT alongside Ian Eagle, or Ian. Yeah, it's Ian Eagle, and he is exceptional, by the way. Is it Ian or Ian? It's Ian?
Ian, yeah. Good save.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So, big fine. So, Stan Van Gundy is with us now on ESPN Radio. And before we get started here on anything else, it's important that we get your top 5 basketball movies of all time. I think America stinks at making basketball movies, but I want Stan Van Gundy's opinion on the top 5 basketball movies ever made.
Okay, so am I starting with 1 or starting with 5?
Well, you start with 5, Stan.
Let's start with number 5. Are you ready? Number 5, yeah. The 5th best basketball movie of all time, according to Stan Van Gundy, is?
The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Of course.
Number 4, it's an old one. It's 1979. It is an old one.
Come on, it's a good one now.
It is.
It was one of the first good ones, yes, and we haven't made a whole lot since. Number 4.
White Men Can't Jump.
An excellent choice, exactly the same as USA Today. They put that at number 4. Number 3.
Coach Carter.
Yes, Coach C.
Well, no, listen, I'm biased on that one because it's a true story, and Kenny Carter and I graduated from high school the same year in the same part of California, played against each other, played in all-star games, both with and against each other, so I know Kenny and enjoyed seeing him in the movie. So, and he has done great things in a tough area there in California. So I'm a little biased on that one.
And Samuel L. Jackson did a good job portraying your friend?
Yeah, and I saw Kenny at a Laker game years ago, right when the movie came out, and gave him a hard time. Like, come on, man, how do you get Samuel? If Kenny looks like me, short, not thin, the whole thing. You got Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, like, come on. I mean, that wasn't fair. But the movie was good. I liked it.
Number 2, according to Stan Van Gundy.
Glory Road. And I didn't think it was necessarily a great movie, but the story it told was one of the best in basketball history. So I really liked it.
And the best basketball movie of all time, according to Stan Van Gundy, is?
Come on, you knew I was going here. Hoosiers.
Oh, I thought it was overrated. I really did.
Blue Chips.
Come on.
Yes.
The Blue Chips. Come on, man. That was funny, though. I'll tell you what was an underrated basketball movie because it wasn't maybe primarily about basketball, but it certainly was featured in there a lot, was Finding Forrester.
You mentioned all of these are on the list that we just gave people. I wanted to talk to you about some of the stuff that is going on in the world and in sports, but maybe not your sport. What did you make of that news that was just read during the flash there about the NFL, tying some of this contract money and failed physicals for the coronavirus allows them to take some of that money back? You were an executive of the Detroit Pistons. These things can be complicated. You hear that news and you think what?
Well, look, I mean, these NFL owners are all strapped for money. These are guys we should really be feeling sorry for. And if there's a way to save these nearly destitute people some money, I'm all for it. I mean, at this time, we have to take care of the least among us, Dan. And these owners are people that we need to be looking out for.
What did you make as a baseball fan? What did you make of everything that was going on with the Astros?
Well, by the way, speaking of that, my brother's wife sent me a text yesterday. She had read it somewhere else, sent it to me to say none of the Astros have tested positive for the coronavirus. They saw the signs of it coming before the rest of them.
Oh God.
I mean. So look, they clearly cheated, and it was sort of minimized, I thought, by a lot of people. I think it's a bigger issue than steroids. If we're going to have clearly great players kept out of the Hall of Fame because of steroid use, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, maybe A-Rod, because of steroid use, then and have no effect whatsoever, no effect at all on the careers of Astros hitters. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Stan, what do you make of the NBA and them? They seem like they still want to finish off this season, and I would say that it's a bit unseemly considering everything that's going on, and it seems like a lot of people, guys, players in Adam Silver's league has tested positive for the coronavirus, and we'll see what the final numbers are. But I'd rather hear the NBA and Adam Silver stop talking about charity games and this and that and start talking about, hey, just stay home. This season's canceled.
Listen, I think when it all comes down to it, I have great confidence that Adam Silver will make the right decision. He'll do the right thing. But listen, one of the things that the NBA has been as good at as anybody, maybe the best, is turning this into a 12-month-a-year, 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week league. They're always in the news. And to just say, hey, we're going to go away for the rest of the season right now would take you out of the news cycle. So I think right now they'll try to remain optimistic, and they'll talk about it, and they'll give fans hope that they're coming back. But at the end of the day, let's judge them on what they do, and I'd be shocked if they did anything even remotely irresponsible. I mean, listen, the country shut down, I would argue, at the leadership of the NBA. I mean, that's when everything started. A couple of colleges in California had made the decision to shut down. I was out there a week ago Tuesday doing the Warrior game. I mean, this is how quickly all this has happened. Same day, my parents and my brother were at a spring training game here. Wednesday night, the NBA suspended the season. And when Adam Silver did that, everything followed from there. All the leagues, the NCAA, and then beyond sports to all entertainment stuff, schools. But it was started with the leadership of the NBA. I think the league has been on the right side of things quite often. I trust Adam Silver to make the right decision. Let's see what happens. But there's no real reason to just write it off right now.
Stan Van Gundy with us on ESPN Radio. I've been hypothesizing that guys are going to come back fat if you don't allow them in the practice facility, if you don't allow them to work out anywhere but home, and they can't really get basketball training. Like, even if they do come back, Stan, it's going to take a minute for everybody to get back in shape.
Yeah, because I think this is even a lot different than when the season starts. And you make a great point, Dan. I mean, when we're getting ready for the start of the season, guys are amping up as they get into August and September and they're getting ready for training camp, and then training camp is getting them ready for the exhibition games, which are getting them ready for the regular season and the whole thing. Now we're basically saying to players, go home, can't come in the facility. We don't want you going to other gyms to work out. It'll be impossible for them to stay in shape. And if this is going to go into June or July, you're going to have a lot of players in the worst shape they have been in probably in years. If you bring them back, you're going to have to give them plenty of time to ramp up and to get ready for the season, to get in shape. And I think that's going to be as complicating a factor as anything else in trying to restart the season.
Do you have any theories on what happened with Kenny Atkinson and the Brooklyn Nets?
No, I don't have any. I have absolutely no idea what happened there, why they would make that move. Kenny Atkinson had done a terrific job there, had built a style of play that was going to work extremely well even when they got Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant back. They've done a great job developing players. I think one of the things that attracted those guys there is they looked at that roster and said, wow, they've got some guys who can play, and you wouldn't have said that when they first brought those guys to the Brooklyn Nets. So Kenny had done everything right. The only thing I can chalk it up to is that's just the NBA or pro sports in a lot of cases. But it was one of the more surprising ones to me. I'm not usually shocked or surprised, and on that one, I was. I mean, we had done the Brooklyn game just a couple days before when they had that huge comeback against the Celtics where, Karis LeVert scored 37 points in the fourth quarter in overtime. They showed great resilience. They'd won 2 out of 3 when they fired him, so it really did take me by surprise, and I'll be interested to see where Kenny lands because I think he'll be a sought-after guy, and I'll be interested to see what the Nets do.
Stan, I asked this seriously. I'm wondering, because I would love you to be the next head coach of the New York Knicks because I need you, but I'm wondering, and I asked this seriously, would you take that job if it were offered to you?
I'm not really interested in the New York Knicks now. I mean, first of all, there's a family history there. I mean, if anybody would be interested in that, and I'm not sure he is either, it would be my brother. And number two, I just, to me, I've said this, I'm different than a lot of coaches in looking at jobs. And to me, it's all about who you work for and who you work with. And everything I've seen over the last few years with that organization says that it's extremely dysfunctional.
What about the Nets?
The Nets, I mean, are a different situation, but both those teams have coaches now, and I think Mike Miller was doing a very good job. Jacques Vaughn's been a head coach before. He has a relationship with Sean Marks coming from San Antonio, and so I think it was unfortunate the season shutting down so quickly that Jacques may not get a chance to make a case for himself. But right now I'm rooting for those two guys to stay in their jobs. But certainly of the two, the Nets are the better job. There's no question about that right now. I mean, the organization has been more stable. They've won more games. They have more talent. I don't think there's any question that's the better job of the two right now. We'll just see where they go with it.
All right, Stan Van Gundy, before we conclude here, Chris Cody has a list of nominees here. There is a Bollywood star who looks suspiciously like me. He's in action movies. He's got a gun in the movie posters, and we've been asking the listeners to name the action movie that I would star in. Chris has some nominees for you here, the name of the action movie, and we want at the end for you to pick one of them. Chris, give him a handful of the nominees.
All right, the best of the best so far, Stan. We got Stakin'. We got The Fudgative. We have Burrito's Way. We have Flan in 60 Seconds. Soy Story. And Planet of the Crepes.
I'll tell you what, that's quite the list and very, very hard to choose from. I'm going to go with The Fudgative.
I think that's an excellent choice. What is your strategy about snacking at this time? Are you a saver or are you just a gorger?
You know what? I haven't been doing a lot of snacking, Dan. I've lost quite a bit of weight. I haven't been doing a lot of snacking, so I'm certainly not hoarding anything right now. I just eat a couple of 2 to 3 meals a day and leave it at that. But this is going to be a challenge for all of us in this time. I mean, it's only been 10 or 11 days, and I'm at a nice house and a pool and the whole thing, and the weather's been beautiful, and I'm still going crazy. And I think it's more the idea. It's not so much that I'm missing anything in particular. It's just that I can't do anything. I may not on a given day go out to eat, but I want to know I can go out to eat. I want to know I can go to a movie. I want to know I can watch a game. I can't do any of those things, and I'm already feeling, that a lot of my life has been taken from me, even though what I do on most days is just sit around my house.
All right, well, let's get you to host some radio shows with us. We'll talk to you later, Stan. Thank you for being on with us.
All right, guys.
See you, Stan. If you missed any of our interviews, check them out on demand in the Dan Le Batard Show podcast, brought to you by Capital One. With Capital One, you can open a new checking or savings account with no fees or minimums. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Approval required. Capital One N.A. Member FDIC. Dan, it is time for Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless.
Mike Ryan cannot stop talking about the morning show that Trick Daddy and Trina do. Is that a national morning show, or is that just a Miami morning show?
That is just local, Dan, on 99 Jams. It's the Trick and Trina morning show. In times like these, you really rely on the media to pass along information, the important stuff. So I turned to Trick Daddy and Trina for my important information, and it was a bit surreal because Trick Daddy on Wednesday was like, all right, what's the news of the day? And he had to be reminded that the coronavirus stuff was going on. And then he's like, well, outside of that, let's talk about why, according to this study, men are more unhappy in relationships than women. And I was just sort of struck by the fact that Trick Daddy and Trina are sort of relying on like this sort of morning DJ tropes that everybody else does. And it actually sounded quite normal for what it was. I was a little disappointed outside of the absurdity of Trick Daddy doing a traffic report, Dan.
We're about to see, Stugotz, we are about to see sports try and dry up a little bit here as we go forward, now that football is going to be taken away from us, and you're going to see the content machine.
No, Ice Cube has got us. Ice Cube is protecting us from all of that. He is quarantining. It's a mixture of Big Brother and the Big Three League. And the Big Three was going to introduce a set of all new rules anyways, but Ice Cube's like, I'm going to get everybody tested, and we're going to put them in this compound, and it's going to be a reality show / Big Three competition. There is a fairly wide lane here for a sport to rise up. Right now, the lead dog is marble racing, so we haven't set the bar that high. If Ice Cube can pull this off, and it seems as though basketball is the only people getting tested with regularity, if he can pull this off, don't be shocked if the Big Three and CBS Sports Network really come out of this the big winners.
There is an opening here for somebody who doesn't have to follow the rules that everyone else is following. If he quarantines, if he creates a reality show, it's a funny thing, creating a reality show with tested guys and putting them in an environment where you're watching them 24 hours a day. I'd watch some Steven Jackson. I'd watch Steven Jackson just tell stories for a while.
Oh, so would I watch anything at this point, though? Wouldn't you? So you're right. There is a big lane because we are all starving so much that it's like, Dan, you don't have food. You'll eat anything. I don't have sports. Give me anything. Give me one-on-one. I don't care what it is. Just give me something.
But I was saying, so as football dries up here and you see Tom Brady signing for 2 years, $50 million in Tampa Bay, man, that Todd Gurley thing ended fast. You see how fast? It's one of the amazing things about what the Patriots did for 20 years here, Stugotz, where, they got Jonas Gray, a guy who's doing stand-up comedy. They move him from an open mic night. He scores 4 touchdowns.
Right.
They've got these interchangeable garden gnomes that they play at wide receiver after using Troy Brown at wide receiver. And here we are. The Rams are 2 years removed from all of us thinking, okay, this is the future. And then the whole league hiring a bunch of guys who were just like McVay, who thought like him and everything else. And they gave 2 big contracts to Gurley and to Jared Goff, both of them looking terrible. Goff's looking worse than even Gurley's. And now Todd Gurley, Stugotz, he's 25 years old.
That's the shocking part of the story to me, that he's 25 years old. It feels like he's been around forever. Like, that guy's done a lot, and he's only 25. And Dan, like, do you have a theory what happened there? Because forget about Goff. It was a quarterback. You needed to sign him. You need to pay quarterbacks the big money. Like 2 years ago, we were talking about Todd Gurley as the MVP of the NFL. And then all of a sudden, C.J. Anderson was getting most of the carries in the postseason, headed into a Super Bowl run. I mean, and it is
arthritis in the knee, Stugotz. It's arthritis in the knee. It's physical. It's clearly
at 25.
Physical. Yes, but he was having issues, and they said that, like an offseason ago, they said that he could no longer be a workhorse running back, that his body, that's not how they were going to use him anymore. Their offense stopped being the same offense, when Kupp went out and when his knee was hurt, and he hasn't been the same running back since. So now, not only has he not been the same running back, that's a 1-year flyer that the Falcons are taking on him. It's not like people are clamoring around Todd Gurley saying, hey, we'll rehab him. This is the league basically telling you this guy is largely done.
Well, I also think Gurley, who played at Georgia and is from that area, wanted to go back there for a year. Just wanted to go home.
It's just a year, though, is what I'm saying. Todd Gurley, we would have made the argument that he was top 5 MVP a couple of years ago. We would have made that argument.
I know, but you go to the Falcons for 1 year, you go home, you try to reinvent yourself, prove yourself on that 1-year contract, and then hope that some team pays a 26-year-old guy who we were talking about as MVP 2 years ago. He hopes that someone will give him the big contract after this season.
We will ask Dan Graziano about that and more football stuff next.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Dan Graziano going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Little NFL talk. Here's your SportsCenter update. Sources have told ESPN that because NFL teams are unable to oversee physicals due to the coronavirus outbreak, they are adding provisions in player contracts stating that failed physicals will result in forfeited signing bonus money. Red Sox pitcher Chris Sale will undergo Tommy John surgery. And finally, GameStop employees have been told to keep stores open because they believe they are an essential business amid the COVID-19 outbreak. SportsCenter is brought to you by Bolt 24. Being an athlete is 24/7, so stay hydrated with Bolt 24 with antioxidant, vitamins A and C, electrolytes from watermelon and sea salt, and no artificial sweeteners or flavors. Bolt 24, all-day hydration for all-day athletes. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Got a lot of questions here for our NFL expert, Dan Graziano. Thank you for joining us, Dan. Let's bang through these. So the Patriots are going to do what at quarterback? Best guess.
Wait out the market like Bill Belichick does and see what kind of value arises. If Jameis Winston's price drops to where it's worth taking a shot and bringing him in and letting him try and be the starter, that's one thing. If Andy Dalton's price in trade is reasonable enough, then maybe they take a shot on that. Maybe they call the Indianapolis Colts for their old buddy Jacoby Brissett, see if he's available. But Bill Belichick and the Patriots, that's one of those organizations that does not panic, and they will move deliberately and carefully, and there may well be a solution that none of the rest of us can think of because we are not Bill Belichick.
The Colts, did they get better at quarterback with Phillip Rivers?
I think in the short term, yeah. I mean, look, he threw a lot of interceptions last year, but they just weren't able to do a lot of the things they wanted to do in their passing game with Jacoby Brissett, whether that's because he's not developed enough yet or whether it's because, he's just not as good as they thought he was. They feel like they're in a window where they're trying to win now, win quickly. They looked at Phillip Rivers and said, trouble in Los Angeles, yes, but they didn't protect him at all. Our offensive line can protect anybody. Let's see how he does behind that crew.
Dan, what's the ceiling for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next season?
Well, I think it's pretty high. I think being in the Saints division may limit it a little bit, although there's going to be a year coming up soon where the Saints suddenly aren't as good as they have been, and they'll wish they had cashed it in. But I think if Tom Brady can still play, the receivers are absolutely outstanding. I think the defense is probably better than people think, and I think it's a team that can definitely contend for and possibly win its division. And if you are that, then you're a contender for the whole thing.
Who did very well in free agency and who did very poorly?
Buffalo didn't make a lot of real exciting moves. Well, the Stephon Diggs, though, that's pretty exciting. But, yeah, they continued to sort of build their team the way that they want to, and I think that's good. I actually think Atlanta did pretty well, considering everybody went into it saying they don't have any cap space. They end up getting Dante Fowler and Todd Gurley and trading for Hayden Hurst, the tight end, to replace Austin Hooper. So, yeah, that NFC South might be a little more competitive this year. In terms of who did badly, I mean, I don't know. Like, did the Lions just rearrange some deck chairs on defense, or is it really going to be the mix that Matt Patricia wants now? That remains to be seen. I never like the big contracts that like the Giants gave James Bradbury and the Dolphins gave Byron Jones. I mean, those guys might be good players, but ultimately those contracts tend to cause problems down the road.
Dan Graziano with us on ESPN Radio. Does Buffalo have a quarterback?
Yeah, the opinions are split. It's because people like what Buffalo did, and then you get to the point in the conversation where you say, "Well, what do you think about the quarterback?" And you hear, "I'm not sure," or "Oh, I think he can be good." I think what you have to look at with Buffalo, Brandon Beane, the GM, was in Carolina when they drafted Cam Newton, and I've actually talked to him about this. He sees some similarities between the way they were able to operate with Newton early in his career and the way that Buffalo is able to operate with Josh Allen. I don't think he's ever going to be the super accurate passer, but the question is, can you find ways to win in spite of that, as Carolina did with Cam? And he can bring some things to the table that other quarterbacks can in terms of running, and he can throw it a mile. So I think they have a shot with him.
As a Jet fan, this is the first time in 20 years I can ask this question. The best team in the AFC East is blank.
Well, I don't think the Patriots are all the way together yet. I mean, as the season was starting tomorrow with the rosters the way that they look right now, you'd probably say Buffalo. But, you got to give the Patriots the benefit of the doubt that they'll continue to add during the offseason. I mean, Jets I think they're on the way. I think they still have more work to do, but they wanted to address the offensive line. They've done a bunch of that. And, we'll see what they put together at receiver and some of the other stuff they have to put around Sam Darnold. But I think he's legit, and I think they're on their way.
Where's Cam Newton going to end up? Cam Newton.
I still think the Chargers are the most likely landing spot there. It just makes a lot of sense, but I think it could be a while. I mean, then not being able to give him a physical is an issue. I mean, that foot is a big question, and teams are going to want to check it out before signing him. I think he'll get released, so I say signing him. So I think the Chargers seem the most likely, but we're early enough in that process that it's hard to make a pick.
Can you explain to us the decision-making involved and whether the union should fight these coronavirus clauses?
The decision-making is a way around the fact that no one can talk to each other in person. And I think the league put out a memo a couple days ago that suggested teams put contingency language in their trade agreements to allow trades to be voided as a result of failed physicals. And in terms of I don't think there's anything in the CBA that prohibits it. Obviously, I'm still kind of reading through the new CBA, but I don't think there's anything in there that prohibits it, but especially if the player signs it. But no, I think it's the union and the players wanted to get free agency going. The league office wanted to get free agency going. There were some teams and some agents that weren't happy about it. But in terms of getting the process going, this is something that I think they feel like they have to do, or else all the signings would be on hold and there could be total chaos down the road. I mean, one or two failed physicals a year pretty much happens in free agency, and now it'll just be delayed in terms of the effect. But I think they felt like, for better or for worse, whether they were right or wrong, they felt like they had to get this going this week, and this is one of the ways they could pull it off.
All right, Dan, we appreciate the time. I think we lost Dan Le Batard. So Dan Graziano, we're up against the break here. We do appreciate the time. Thank you for the news, sir, and stay safe during the coronavirus outbreak here.
Same to you guys. Thanks very much.
Okay, you got it.
So help me out here, Mike Ryan. Rob Gronkowski is going to be hosting, I don't know what that means exactly, WrestleMania, April 4th and April 5th. And I feel like if you're going to have Rob Gronkowski, who can be a lot of meathead and a lot of stiff, he needs crowd noise. That anywhere that Gronk is performing, he needs a crowd if he's going to be getting people riled up. He needs reactions from people when he breaks a beer can on his head. I am not optimistic that Gronk is going to be able to pull off WrestleMania as an actor.
As a host who, as you said, I mean, look, Gronk needs people to cheer. I imagine when he goes potty, people are still there to let him know that he does a good job. I think this is going to be a real struggle for him in the wrestling world. I don't think look, Rob Gronkowski doesn't have range, so I think that they should sort of play into this whole like meathead type character, have him just go by Gronk, have him sort of lean into the fact that he needs people there. They have some smart people in creative, but then if you saw their show this week, which was just, hey, let's replay the Royal Rumble, it would make you a little afraid for what creative has in store for him. If you go into this thinking that Rob Gronkowski is the next great multimedia charismatic star, you have an issue. So hopefully they just lean into his deficiencies and turn them into strengths.
Chris Cody wants to get in here. He is eager to talk some wrestling and some Gronk. What do you have, Chris?
They brought Stone Cold back earlier this week. I think it was on Monday. And even him, you'd say to yourself, if anyone can do it without a crowd, Stone Cold Steve Austin can. And for me, I watched it and it was awkward. He was trying to, it almost turned into a stand-up routine. It was cringeworthy. And he's like a good actor. He's a good quote-unquote wrestler. So I don't know. I'm with you. It's going to be tough for Gronk.
I would do very poorly with a live audience. That is not something that would go well with me, but there is a reason that all these late night shows have live audiences, and you are seeing the difficulties that people have in entertaining as you take them out of their environments, and then you ask Trevor Noah to be doing the Daily Show, where you're not getting the laughs as soon as, to encourage you to keep pushing a joke or keep giving you confidence. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if you saw All
right, we lost Dan there. The live audience, though, for Dan is the shipping container and me. I mean, that's his live. He'd be bad with a big live audience, but a small, tiny live audience of people that he trusts. Billy, Chris, Roy, Tony, he trusts you guys. He does not trust me. But that is his live audience. So if we are laughing, if we're engaged, if we think something is going well, it prompts Dan to keep going. Dan is back with us, we think, now on ESPN Radio. But that is his live audience. It's the five of us. He trusts Mike. He trusts Roy. He trusts Chris. He trusts Billy. He trusts Tony. If they are laughing and engaged, Dan knows he's onto something good. He doesn't trust me, so it doesn't matter what I do.
I need to apologize to the audience. My internet continues to go down, and I see you guys get frozen on my screen. And what ends up happening when my internet goes down is I get frozen because you guys are frozen. And as I'm talking about the difficulties of doing this from home, what I was mentioning, and I don't know where the internet cut out and where.
No, just cut out again. I mean, listen, send this in for Marconi because this is our moment right here. This is it. This is the time we finally win after 17 years of doing amazing radio. This will be the segment that gets us a Marconi, where Dan just stops talking and I finish his thoughts for him. I would like to do the show like this moving forward.
I don't trust you at all with that. I don't
what do you mean?
Finish any of my.
I've done a good job here.
But what I'm looking here on the screen is these guys are getting frozen as my internet goes down. And that's what you need to know, Stugotz, about what a bleep show we are and how generally unprofessional. You would think that the faces that are frozen on the screen would be horrified or just frozen indifferently, or in the case of Roy Bellamy, looking miserable. But what happens is when my internet goes down, what gets frozen is Billy eating a bowl of cereal with a huge smile on his face, and everyone's showing a bunch of teeth because they're all laughing at me as our show descends right into the sewage nationally. You guys,
how much longer are we going to do this?
It's when does this end? When does this end? We cannot be doing this for months.
I can't stay here much longer.
I am going to crawl to my bedroom and sleep until Monday morning because I'm so exhausted. This needs to end. I don't know what we're going to do. What we're going to do next week when we don't even have football.
We're the show that was prepared for this.
Internet, we thought we wouldn't miss sports at all. Oh, my God. What are we going to do? Whatever it is that we're going to do it with Jeremy Fowler, and we're going to do it next.